usually hesitate to go for a better world if this implies unknown risks. And this holds the more the older people are. Maybe for young people at the age of 20 or so, that they like to go for some advantages, ignoring the risks involved. But the older people are, so long as they have stayed in work life, the more important the risks become to them, and the less willing they are to change. Unfortunately, in the practice of ICT introduction projects, there's a strong tendency to talk exclusively about the benefits of the new technology, or to give good examples maybe from other government agencies which have already introduced the new technology and have been successful. However, this doesn't convince people in practice. People do not necessarily believe that a benefit for the organization as a whole is a benefit for themselves, and their actual behavior is much more influenced by the fear of risks implied by the new than by the ambition to obtain some potential benefit offered by the new technology. And it's an empirical fact that the unknown risks are even much more threatening to the people than the well-known risks. And based on these observations, it's not surprising that there's another observation that people are really rarely convinced by good examples from other places, but rather that good examples from other places are ignored by them. This is an important observation because in many management texts you will have the recommendation that you should show good examples. I think what you have to show in a change project is that there's a need, there's a necessity to change, that the change solves actual problems in the organization where the technology is introduced, locally there, and not talk too much about some other places where it seems that some positive examples have taken place, other places which are not well known, and other places which may be very different from your place, and people will be very quick in arguing that the success at the other place is a totally different thing than the case in your place. Anyway, the most convincing reason to change is really the necessity to change. If people understand there's a strong necessity to change, they will be willing to cooperate. If they do not understand there's a strong necessity to change, they will not be willing to cooperate. And you should be aware, the resistance to change is not a case that people will say no, maybe they will put forward arguments against the change, but it's usually not a clear no, but it's usually a very subversive resistance to change. That is, people will start using the technology in a wrong way, thus demonstrating that technology creates more problems than it solves. They will ignore technology now and then, which then breaks down the overall benefits of the technology use. So the resistance to change usually is a very subversive one, and it's hard to be argued in detail. You have to argue it in the big line, and the big line always has to be that there's a necessity of change, and the change really indeed solves real problems you are having right now. Once you have accepted that the understanding of the change is not a necessary thing, once you have accepted that you have to convince people about the necessity of change, about the necessity of introducing new technology, then you can start thinking about how to set up a good change management process. There are several theories about the right type of change management processes. More or less, there's more European 3 phases theory, and there's, for example, John Cotter's 8 phases theory for change processes. I will not go into detail which type of process scheme you should use. I will just concentrate on a few key aspects here. First of all, what you can read in most management books is indeed true. So the top management should be bought in. So it is a key success factor that the top management supports your change project. However, even if the top management principally is in favor of your change project, it may well occur that it interferes negatively with the change project if it does not understand the process you are following. So it's the first step in every change management project is get the buy-in of all your colleagues in the top management and explain to them how the change process takes place, in which phases, and why is that. If you do not explain the phases of the change process to your colleagues in the top management, the risk is high that they will interfere with your process simply because they don't understand what is going on right now, and maybe they don't understand why you are proceeding so slow. Maybe they will even believe that you yourself don't believe in the change because you are proceeding so slow. Also, you're just proceeding in a slow way because you want to manage your change project in a proper speed, which will gain the support of all involved stakeholders. So the second, once you have bought the buy-in from all your colleagues in the top management, the process may proceed in the ways that indeed with all the indicated psychological issues I have discussed before. So the second step should be that you communicate to everyone concerned why there's a necessity to change, and to convince as many people as possible that there's indeed a necessity to change. It should be at least a strong minority, but the more people who really accept that there's a necessity to change, the better it will be for the rest of the project. Then only in the third step you should develop a vision and the project setup. So don't start with the vision first, but really do the first steps, and then in the third step you should go for the developing of the vision and the project setup. And for this you should have the support and you should have the involvement of respected representatives of all stakeholders or stakeholder groups concerned by your project. Then in the fourth step, you should communicate the vision and the setup of the project. And then the next steps follow. Usually you try to go for quick wins and so on. I won't go into detail now then about the following steps. The key message is that good communication has to take place all along the phases of the project. It is very important in the beginning, but you shouldn't stop your good communication once you seem to have the support of the majority of the concerned people. And in order to gain the support of the majority of the concerned people, you always should be aware that people are not steered by cognition in general, but they are much more controlled and steered by the emotions they have. So when you try to convince them that there's indeed a necessity, you should use emotionally capturing pictures. Storytelling and visualization are often very useful for this. But really try to capture the emotion. Tell them, you know, we have these problems. Technology solves these concrete problems. And it's really of key importance to us that we solve these problems. And you shouldn't be afraid of being a bit rude in the communication. You have to catch the emotions. If it's just accepted on the cognitive level, then probably it won't go a long way. when I was talking about visualizations, visualizations means really developing colorful pictures and doesn't necessarily mean that you show any kind of visualizations of PowerPoint, of Excel statistics. The other thing you should always be aware is that most people want to be good and most people want to contribute to the success of their organization. It's not that people resist to change because they have no commitment to the organization. It's not that because they have a negative mind. Usually the resistance to change, the resistance to the introduction of new technology is due to very practical reasons. So if they understand the necessity of change, I really want to underline this once again. It's the necessity of change and not just the necessity of new technology. They will support the change. And this holds particularly true for the public sector, because usually there's a strong value affiliated with the work commitment of people in the public sector. And the reason why it is important to have as many people as possible who have a commitment to the necessity of change is that usually most projects once or then get into crisis. You cannot invite crises, you cannot avoid problems. It's quite natural that something not planned happens which really puts the whole project at risk. And then in such a crisis where everything there's a risk that everything fails, you depend on the support of people who have not yet been involved in the project to get things going again. So if people understand this necessity, if they believe in the project, then you will experience proactive help from other people in the case of crisis. If you don't have this proactive help, it's most likely that the unforeseen crisis eventually will kill your project. So, basic line again is you should work hard to win the support of a large majority. And even more, the basic line is the successful introduction of new technology starts with the commitment of the majority to the necessity of change. If people really are dissatisfied with the status quo, that is, if they understand the necessity, if there's a clear vision developed of the positive possibility to overcome the problems, and if you have the first steps done which really provide early benefits of the introduction of the new project, then you may realize that you will overcome the resistance to change and your project will be a successful one, and the use of the new ICT will improve the quality of work in the public administration. So I'm coming to the summary of the points I've made. We started out with the observations that ICT improves the quality of work in government and public administration, but many ICT projects fail in practice. So ICT is a chance for public administration, but many projects fail. Therefore, the question, how to deal with this problem? The basic solution, the basic approach to solve this problem is to treat the introduction of new ICT as a change management project, which focuses on the people rather than on technology. Really to deal with the people, the concerns.